Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Yep, back again. Hello, everybody. This is John coming to you on Thursday afternoon or Thursday evening at 4 o'clock, whichever you'd prefer to designate this time of day. And we bring you a reading from the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life, written for us by the Spirit Emmanuel and given to us through the mediumship of Francisco Candido Xavier. And what we do is read the message, then offer some comments, and then say a prayer. That's it. Very, very short, 15 to 20 some minutes, and we're over and done. And we use the message as a segue into the prayer. So today's message from The Way, the Truth, and the Light is number 169, and it is entitled The Real Picture. The New Testament quote that Emmanuel selected was from Jesus, recorded by John in chapter 17, verse 14. I have given them your word, and the world has hated them, for they are not of the world any more than I am of the world. Emmanuel then writes, there will always be followers of the gospel who wrongfully expect an easy life. The Lord did not promise his disciples anything other than an ongoing effort against the darkness until the final victory of the good. Christians are not ornamental flowers in isolated churches. They are the salt of the earth, the power for the preservation of divine principles in the sanctuary of the whole world. Jesus' word in this particular situation leaves no room for doubt. It might be better to say Jesus' word in this particular quote leaves no room for doubt. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. And as we take up our crosses, Emmanuel writes, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute and slander you. Bless those who curse you. Lend without expecting repayment. Do not judge so that you will not be judged. Among you, the greatest is the servant of all. Seek the narrow door. I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. In the world, you will have tribulations. And that in a, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, kind of sums up taking up your cross. And Emmanuel has 2 more paragraphs here. In light of such clear statements, it is impossible to see Christ as a giver of an easy life. No one should come to him without a sincere desire to learn and grow spiritually. If Christianity is sublime hope, heavenly love, and renewing faith, it is also incessant toil, sacrifice, and growth. As the living example of his divine lessons, the Supreme Master lived, serving, and died on the cross. That's the final sentence. As the living example of his divine lessons, the Supreme Master lived, serving, and died on his cross. There is a pretty, I just dawned on me the title of this chapter, The Real Picture. And that's so appropriate for this particular presentation, this writing that Emmanuel has done, because he sets the table all throughout. It's very, this, sometimes Emmanuel's writings, you really do have to put a lot of sweat into researching and reading it over and over and over again. But this one is just blatantly plain and to the point. When even in what he selected, Jesus's quote, "I have given them your word, and the world has hated them, for they are not of the world any more than I am of the world." And this is Jesus obviously relating or praying to God and letting them know that the word has been given to the disciples and the people, and he's no more of this world than any of us should be, because we are, as Spiritism continues to emphasize over and over again, we are a physical and a spiritual body joined together in what is called the perispirit. And we are to focus on ourselves as a spiritual body first and a physical body person second. This is how we grow ourselves as a spiritual being, continually remembering and teaching ourselves through whatever actions, I shouldn't say actions, but whatever opportunities are placed in our path during a particular day and throughout our whole lives. But we focus in the present. We leave the past in the past. We leave the future in the future, and we concentrate on what we can do today to do the good. And as Emmanuel writes, there'll always be these people that expect that they can breeze through life, that they, especially if they've embraced Spiritism as the gospel. The gospel is a really a big part. The Gospel According to Spiritism, Kardec's third book, I believe it is. And it does has a related thing in here. Chapter 15 in Gospel According to Spiritism is, "Without charity there is no salvation." And basically it sums up one of the sentences here is, "All the moral teachings of Christ are summarized in the need for charity and humility. That is to say, in the two virtues that are contrary to selfishness and pride." In all of his teachings, Jesus indicates these two virtues as being the ones that lead to eternal happiness. He said that the poor in spirit, that is to say, the humble, were blessed because the kingdom of heaven would be theirs. Blessed are those who have pure hearts. Blessed are the gentle and the peacemakers. Blessed are the merciful. He also taught the need to love one's neighbor as oneself, to do to others as we would have them do unto us, to love our enemies, to forgive all offenses if we wish to receive forgiveness, to do good without ostentation, and to judge ourselves before we judge others. So then charity and humility are the two things that Jesus never ceased to recommend and for which he stands as the example. He also never ceased to combat pride and selfishness. Nor did he limit himself to the mere recommending of charity, but put it in very clear and explicit terms as being the only condition for future happiness. So this third paragraph in the chapter 15 of the Gospel According to Spiritism is another way of summarizing what Emmanuel is telling us here, that the disciples did not get promised a bed of roses. It was always going to be the darkness until the final victory of the good. The Christians are not ornamental flowers. We're the salt of the earth, and we have the power to persevere in the divine principles. Jesus' word leaves no room for doubt. Okay, and this is where he lists all those items about anyone that should come after me, let him deny himself and take up the cross. And then this is loving your enemies, as we just read in the gospel according to Spirit, and pray for those who persecute and slander you, which he did so often, and even up until he was carrying his cross, and some of his final words to forgive those, for they know not what they do. Bless those who curse you. This is exactly what he did. Lend without expecting repayment, and of course he did everything from a charitable and kind standpoint to everybody. And of course, judging was not in his vocabulary. The greatest is the servant to all, and he was a servant to all. And of course, he was definitely working his way through the narrow door. And he admitted that he was sending us out to a lot of people that weren't going to be too kind to us, the sheep among the wolves. And in the world, you will have tribulations, and there's no doubt about that. We don't have, at this current day, we don't have the same type of tribulations that the early disciples and followers of Christ had. The martyrs, of course, they were martyred, they were put to death, they were sacrificed in horrible ways. But Jesus and the high-level spirits were there to rescue them, to pull that spiritual body away from that physical body, so that it wasn't as horrifying as it might have been. And what he tells when Emmanuel finishes up telling us here, that in light of such clear statements, it's impossible to see Christ as the giver of an easy life, and it's no doubt it's not an easy life. And he cautions no one to approach without this desire to learn and grow spiritually. And how do you do that? You do that by following those steps that we read. If Christianity is sublime hope, heavenly love, and rewarding faith, then it's also incessant toil, sacrifice, and growth. And of course, he ends it up with that last sentence, which talks about Christ being the living example in the way he lived his life, serving all, and then, of course, giving us the supreme example of dying on the cross without any real... he knew that Pontius Pilate knew that he was innocent. And of course, Pontius Pilate proclaimed it, but yet did not want to upset the Jewish people that were clamoring for him to be put to death. And of course, they were egged on by people, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the other, maybe the rabbis in the group. They seeded it, so people would start yelling, and then the crowd would catch on. So pretty clear picture, as it is entitled, The Real Picture. So let us then move on to a prayer. So let's close our eyes. Dear Mother, Father God, Lord Jesus, Mother Mary, and spirits that are constantly with us, and I'm certainly here today, the Kardec Radio spirits, the Spirit Society of Virginia spirits, and all of our protecting spirits. We come to you humble and always aware of your presence. Maybe not as much as we should be, but enough that we know you're always there with us, always helping us whenever necessary, and encouraging us to always be on the lookout to feel and seek the good, to think the good, to be so slow to talk the good, but very quick to listen. And of course, our actions should be slow also. Let us be ones that are always taking a breath or two before we say or do something. And let us understand that to follow Christ, there is a lot of effort associated with it. And that effort is following those principles of loving and accepting your enemies, not necessarily sitting down to dinner with them, but not to disrespect or think bad or talk bad about them. Knowing that everything that happens for a particular reason. And many times we have to hunt and peck to find out what it is. But there is always something there for us to garner. We always request that God's infinite mercy and love be spread throughout the world, through our family, our friends, neighbors, and of course across the state of Virginia and the USA, and of course throughout the earth. There's so many organizations, institutions, and people that need that infinite love, mercy, and kindness that is always being spread from God through the spirits. And we express our humbleness and our love and the desire to always seek out the good, to ensure that we think good thoughts, that we say encouraging words, and that we do humble, small actions to help others and ourselves and our family and outside of our family. And with that, we humbly ask to end this small prayer, and so be it. Okay, my friends, it's been a real joy to be here with you. We offer you our blessings and love, and hope to see you here again next week. With that, we sign off and once again offer our blessings and love to you. Take care.